I always enjoy the month of June in the garden. It's the month when we transition from spring into summer. And it's the time of the year that I think our studio gardens here in Stillwater look their absolute best. We've got lots of perennials coming into bloom. A lot of our bedding plants that we've planted this year are starting to show color and starting to fill in and really look nice. The leaves and all the plants still have that spring freshness that kind of peeks out right now before the heat of summer arrives. So it's just a really nice time to be out in the garden. Well, the temperatures are starting to warm up, so by this time of the year we need to have everything mulched, all of our gardens and beds and planting spots. Just put that mulch down to help keep the weeds down. It'll help conserve moisture, and it will also help keep the soil a little bit cooler. Throughout the month of June, we can still plant container-grown trees, shrubs, and perennials. Just pay extra attention to their water needs whenever it gets hot and dry. We can still plant the seed of sweet corn throughout the month of June, all the way up until the early part of July. And this time of the year, it's a good time to sow the seeds of some colorful annual plants like sunflowers, cosmos, marigolds, and zinnias. We've got all of those plants represented here in our seeded garden. We've got some zinnias coming up right here, and they're a little thick, so we need to come in and kind of thin these out, and we can pull those up, or what would probably work best would be just to get some pruners, just snip those off at the ground. If you're thinking about creating a new bed in a Bermuda grass or zoysia grass lawn, the month of June is an excellent time to get out the Roundup and mark off the area and spray that turf grass. That's because these warm season grasses are growing actively at this time, and it'll readily take up the Roundup and be killed. Now later in the year, if you're not irrigating your lawn, the grass will go dormant, and at that time the Roundup is not going to work on it, so you'll actually have to water it to get it to grow before you can spray it and kill it. If you have a young tree or a shrub planted singly out in your lawn, we want to make sure we water those thoroughly during the hot, dry part of the year, and we need to water those at the base of the plant. Don't rely on your lawn sprinklers to water your trees that you've got planted out in the lawn. Sometimes those lawn sprinklers just don't soak that root ball good enough. So you want to come out with the hose or some other device and just completely soak the plant at the base. Again, don't rely on the lawn sprinklers. And as we've told you on the show before, a good general rule to follow when watering young trees and shrubs is to water them at least once a week the first year, and then at least once a month the next 2 years. If you've got some perennial plantings that are starting to flop or fall over, maybe due to some high winds or storms in the month of June, or maybe this happened back in May, you can stake those up so they look better. One thing we like to do is to use either just some wooden sticks or bamboo stakes like we've got right here, and insert those in the ground around the perennials, and then tie those up just to kind of create a rustic decorative support for those perennials. Now, to keep your perennials and roses blooming a little bit longer, we want to make sure we keep all those plants deadheaded. These giant coneflowers here have just started to bloom, so we don't have anything to deadhead yet, but later when we do deadhead these, we'll come out with our snippers, and instead of just cutting the flower head off once it fades up here at the top, we'll go down to like the next leaf, or maybe down here or something like that, just to make it look a little tidier. Don't want to leave those stems just kind of sticking up there in the middle of nowhere. Now, when it comes to deadheading your roses, we want to cut those back to where it will most benefit the plant as well. You can see here these 3 flowers have faded, so we're going to deadhead this part. And instead of cutting back to a leaf that has only 3 leaflets, like we've got right here, we're going to cut back to this one because it has 5 leaflets. And also it's important to cut at this spot because this is an outward-facing bud and won't have any crowding growth growing back toward the center of the plant. So we just snip that off right there. Well, here to give us a few more garden tips for the month of June, our studio garden manager Laura Payne and consumer horticulturist David Hillock.
Early June is a good time to visit other gardens for gardening ideas, and the Oklahoma Gardening Studio Gardens are open to the public, so you might consider making a botanical garden one of your stops on your vacation this year. Also, before going on vacation, you want to make sure you have someone lined out to water your house and your garden plants, mow your lawn, and harvest any fruits and vegetables. Also in June, we can continue pinching back our mums up until the first week of July. And then you'll want to leave them alone, let them set their flower buds, and you should have a beautiful display in the fall.
This time of year is a good time to control some of the annual grassy weeds in your warm season grasses such as Bermuda grass. Right here we have a few of those annual grassy weeds that are already popping up. Crabgrass, goosegrass are commonly found in our warm season grasses during this time of year. And right now is the best time to control those using a product that contains MSMA or DSMA. And the reason we want to do it now is because these seedlings, these plants are still fairly young. The products work more effectively on them. We also don't want to wait until the temperatures get warmer because the products can then damage your Bermuda grass lawn if you wait until late in the summer when it's really hot, and it's not going to be as effective on the larger plants. Now our cool season grasses, hopefully we aren't fertilizing those anymore. We should have stopped fertilization back in probably May. So don't fertilize your cool season grasses during the summer months. Wait until fall again, because if you fertilize it now, you can make it more susceptible or encourage brown patch disease, which is a real problem on our fescue lawns. Also in your gardens, you want to continue to scout for pests, insects, and diseases, and be sure to, if you stay on top of it and scout for it frequently, then you can control a lot of those problems by hand, either by using a hard stream of water, knocking them off, or removing them by picking them by hand. Watch for the natural predators. Give them an opportunity to get in and do some of their control before you reach for the insecticides and other products. Now, also at this time of year, bagworms, little bags that form on junipers and other types of evergreens. And the best way to control those is by picking those off by hand as well, destroying them and removing them from the garden. There are products on the market that will provide good control, but if you can stay on top of them, pick them by hand, then you'll get better control, and it's more effective and safer for the environment. Now, if you have fruit trees in your garden, you want to continue with your spray programs to help control diseases and insect problems that are very common on fruit trees, as well as roses. Roses have many common problems, and you need to stay on top of their spray programs in order to have good, healthy plants throughout the growing season. Some fruit trees will also develop suckers at the base of the tree. You want to go ahead and remove those. You can just pinch them off, knock them off by hand, or if you have pruners, you can prune them if they get a little bit too large, but keep the suckers down away from the trees. On newly planted trees, whether they be fruit trees or other trees, ornamental trees, shade trees that you've planted in your garden, young trees like this need to have a nice grass and weed-free circle like we have here around this plant to protect it from weed eaters and lawnmowers. Those are one of the most common damage problems that we see on young, newly planted trees is weed eater and lawnmower damage that damages the trunk and kills the tree.